All right, all right. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Let's see, Leonard. Leonard, how are you?
Oh, hanging in here, man.
All right, all right. That's about what I'm doing right now too.
Yeah.
I had this. Oh well, whatever. I won't. For some reason, I had the app on my computer so I could look at show the pages of the book, and for some reason, it's telling me I've got too many licenses or something like I don't know. Whatever.
It might be because they asked me to log in tonight, and normally they don't ask me to log in.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those weird things, But I'm gonna pull the. We can do some read aloud.
Okay.
So how you been?
Hey, look, very busy. Trying to get my health back, and I don't know whether they called me back to teaching, and so I've got to redo my Christian theology. I taught it a couple of semesters, well, maybe 4 semesters ago, but I did it as a directive study. And so I didn't have any lectures for it. So I'm developing the lectures, and, I got a speech in Atlanta in August, and I got my acceptance speech as president. So,
Oh, right.
keep everything going at the same time.
That's cool. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, good. Oh, all right. I think I got it to work now.
Okay, good.
Wonderful. I was waiting to see if Mark was going to pop in, but he'll come in eventually, I bet.
Yeah, when I saw Marcy wasn't coming, I made a special effort, even though I overslept.
Yeah. That's always good. I appreciate it very much. Let me see if I can get this. And I remember you saying that you, at least a while back, I think, have you read the Christian Imagination book?
Yeah, I've read all of it. It's a hard read.
It's a hard one.
Your dictionary or your thesaurus next to you.
Yeah.
Because it just has a way with words and language,
Yeah.
And even as I was reading some of this, how the way he phrases what must we do even excites you.
Well, in this little part here where he talks about Peter's words are about Israel, in Israel, and for Israel, just reminded me kind of the end of that Christian Imagination book where he, talks about so much about this Gentile-Jewish relationship and how we need to return to, figure that back out again, how how that was supposed to happen and how it didn't happen the right way, and how to make it maybe look at it again. That might be a way to think about the questions of race in general.
And it's amazing because I was teaching from Isaiah 49 on Saturday, and it spoke specifically to the redemption being, that God was just not for the Jews, but for the Jews and the Gentiles. And so this isn't a new theme in the New Testament. This is an Old Testament thing also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think the one thing if I remember right from the book, one thing that really struck me from the Christian Imagination book was the way he talked about the way that England in particular and some of the colonial nations read the Old Testament as being about them, So like they're, and how, especially particularly like Isaac Watts and some of his hymns, really, leaned into this, promised land being about whatever land they were colonizing, or whatever.
And I mean, even how the hymns are very militaristic when you think about it. It's about conquering. But his whole thing is, we hear people talk about replacement now, and what it actually was replacement. You hate to say it, most people look at racism as a color thing, but it's also a religious thing, because like he said, we displaced the Jews, and the Christians, we were in charge, and then the Muslims went even lower, and then Lord help the indigenous religions, they were looked at as demonic. And so I had Jerome Ross, don't you? Detroit.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ross would always say, to be a Christian, you had to understand Jesus for who he was. He was born a Jew, lived a Jewish life, and and died a Jew. And just like it so happened that we celebrated communion on Pentecost, and I had, I always explain that, the Lord's Supper actually, was it's a Jewish Passover thing, and that Pentecost was a Jewish holiday, and that's why all the Jews were there to hear this.
Right.
So.
Yeah. There's Mark. Let's see. Good.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, Mark?
Oh, hanging in there. What's going on?
Here we are.
There we are.
No, but I just think that's a really, I just think just us sitting every once in a while with the fact that these words were addressed to Israel, and then we have to translate them from that place. It's just same what we've talked before about how to understand Jesus and to live as disciples of Jesus, we have to understand the vernacular and the culture and the background he was speaking to and coming out of, to really get it clear, and get it right.
Well, we're so post-resurrection and the letters of Paul that we miss so much.
Yeah. Well, and Paul's another one that, if you can't read, if you can't understand the prophets and the people that he's using to talk about, what he's talking about, well, even this message that Peter gives, it's basically Joel, so if you don't get that background, it's hard to pick up.
And that's what gets me about folk who refuse to want to deal with the prophets. We will use Isaiah because, I call it myself the Old Testament gospel, because, we interpret it so much to show Jesus. But when you talk about the other prophets, nobody really wants to talk about them. And I preach from a lot, and people say, I didn't realize that was in the Bible. It just
Yeah.
You got a real serious look on your face, Mark.
No. I'm just listening. I'm gonna turn my volume down so that that's echo.
Yeah. Well, I researched that for you, and Restream says either to have us wear earbuds, and I didn't bring mine up tonight, or to mute yourself when you're not talking.
Okay.
So.
All right.
So it's back and forth if it starts.
Try a headset. You said you could try a headset?
Yeah. Or,
Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
And so when I'm not talking, I'll mute because I forgot to bring up my little earbuds.
I have mine, but I tell you what, sometimes when I put them in, they don't work, and it just causes more trouble than it's worth. But
I gave the Apple ones to my wife because they didn't fit in my ear. I have another one I just stick in there, and it works a little better.
All right, let me try. Check. How's that? Can you hear me?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll do this from now on. All right. Now I heard you mention Jerome Ross earlier. I mean, Dr. Ross always used to try to get us to be more serious about, our approach to studying the Old Testament. And we just need to hear that more. That it's important that we really give credence to the Old Testament and to the prophets if we're really going to understand, really understand the background of the early church and in Jesus. I mean, we want to throw the Old Testament away with the baby in the bathwater.
And it's, to understand certain things, you got to understand the Old Testament. And then we got to come to the realization that when Jesus was around, there wasn't any gospels.
Right.
There weren't any letters. The early church, their Bible was the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah.
And they didn't even start writing anything till, years after Jesus died. Because they
in the Septuagint. Yeah. In the Septuagint. Yeah. That's it. That's all they had. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, for the let's see. I'll put this back up again. I just a couple more quotes here that I thought this was interesting. He mentions, that talking about if this is the first Christian sermon, then we must take note of several elements. First, it exists only within the Holy Spirit, which I think any of us who taught or preached can agree that that's a good watchword,
Yeah.
good way to think about it. And then second, he says it does not stand. He does not stand alone. Speaking of Peter, as he stands, the other disciples stand, and as he stands and speaks, Israelites are echoing in his words. I thought that was maybe something that we don't think about all the time.
When I read that statement, you know what I thought about? I thought about and had to read Dr. Craddock's book on preaching, and he talks about preaching and being a statement of faith drawn from the context of tradition. And I thought about that phrase that when Jennings said that Peter stands within a contextual context. We have to understand that contextual context if we're going to understand, what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking, I can't remember what preaching book it is. It might be Tom Long or somebody like that talks about, that you have to come, the preacher comes from within the congregation, comes out from, steps up from within the congregation, not as someone who's, coming in from the outside or dropping down from above, but in a sense, when you stand and speak, the tradition stands with you, and in a way, everyone else who's there ideally has been considered and brought into the circle of what you're trying to say and what you're trying to bring about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, I think that for many of us, we also try to bring some things into the, some people next to us who maybe some ancestors or some people in the world that other people might not hear. We might try to bring Jennings into the pulpit with us if people haven't heard him before. Bring him alongside of us.
Yeah.
I didn't highlight this, but I think I remember reading it. Just this famous Joel passage noted here could never be fully captured with our conceptions of egalitarianism. It proclaims a new world order energized by the movement of the Spirit, breaking through on all flesh and destroying social orders that find slavery useful, stable, capable of making fundamental differences of identity between would-be masters and would-be slaves, so on, and on and on. These slaves, men and women, prophesy. God speaks through them, and they are to be obeyed. This new world order begins with collapse. God shakes foundations, especially ones that wrongly claim divine imprint. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our challenge, because we don't want anything to shake. We just want to
Hold on, yeah.
Don't let go. And it's amazing, because I was reading an article today that one of the professors I work with at Campbell, and she was using that term, Garyism, rather than the complementary thing. In other words, everybody pulling together, and she was using it in reference to men and women in ministry. I posted on my page if you want to see it, but it's like you said, even the economy. I get a lot of pushback from some people saying that the agricultural economy doesn't make any difference because people are still saying, but yet and still, I pride myself in understanding that. And I never will forget, I had a classmate tell me one day, we preached the same text the same day. What he did, preached it in morning service, and we had a
I'm finished working. We'll do this thing then.
And I preached it, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I wish I would have heard you preach this first, because you broke it down. He said, I butchered it this morning, but you made it plain because you spoke to the economy. And and I spent a lot of work on that, because yesterday I was preaching that 2 Samuel, second text, and I took the time to find out if something weighed so much, how much did it weigh? Because we talk about sickles and all that stuff, but what does it weigh?
Wow.
Yeah, and I think this. I think this idea of this, with the way the text talks about the young will prophesy, the slaves will, they prophesy, God speaking through them.
Yeah, everybody has a place. It's not reserved for a few, and that's something that we've sort of gotten away from. With even our structure, where pastors and deacons and trustees, they have more to say than anybody else, and I think that's why we've lost our witness, because everybody in here felt motivated, to do something, because it didn't say, it came in the upper room and it just didn't touch one or two people. It got everybody.
Whole class of folks. And to say that the church is still struggling with that patriarchy, in terms of we still struggle with women preaching. We struggle with folks who may have a theology which is maybe non-traditional, such as womanist theology or even LGBT theology. We struggle with that was just outside the norm. Like Peter was saying, was outside the norm.
Yeah. Well, at least Peter had the courage to change things when it came to Gentiles receiving the Holy Spirit. But I think, because the text when it's written is a patriarchal world. And then when Rome takes over, Rome is even more patriarchal than Israel is. I was reading a statement that if a father had a child and it was a daughter, and they didn't want a daughter, he could just put the daughter out on the street. But everybody bases all of this on Genesis 3:16. But if Jesus came and died for all the sins, it killed all the curse. I mean, the curses should have been wiped away.
Mhm.
And so women shouldn't have to bear that. But we still don't. I don't know. That's why I appreciated Otis Moss yesterday in the sermon he preached.
Oh, what he did on Tamar. Oh, yes. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
He gave women voice. He gave her a voice. And that's something that's well, in the church, too many people are lacking a voice.
Yeah. And that's not the first sermon he's done on Tamar. That's like a second. I remember something he did a couple of years ago, which was I think was even more biting than the one he did yesterday.
Also, I mean, I'm glad you're doing this, Acts, because I always said, even though it has two characters, it starts off with Peter and then it ends up with Paul, that this history is the Holy Spirit at work. And this is why, we need to do a serious study of it. In fact, I was so serious about it, my copy that Jennings autographed when Deron was teaching the Bible study on Acts, I gave it to him, and I don't normally give up my autograph books, but and he marked it up and everything. So I got 3 books now for Jennings, the autograph when I see him.
And I think what you're saying, Leonard, I think we talked about this earlier, that we really need to revisit the church, revisit pneumatology. We really, really do. And as I think as those of us who are part of the Baptist tradition, I think we sort of poo-poo pneumatology a little bit, but we really need to really revisit pneumatology. He's muted.
You muted yourself, Leonard, which was nice, but then we didn't hear you.
Yeah.
I said that's the reason why we have the Full Gospel Baptist Church, because as Baptists, a lot of times we just don't recognize the move of the Holy Spirit.
Well, yeah, and I think this the thing about, and what this Acts text is trying to tell us too is that in a way our connection to becoming disciples of Jesus and actually living the life that Jesus patterned and set for us is through the Holy Spirit, and so if we don't accept that, acknowledge that, and even seek to be filled and welcoming the presence of the Spirit, then we get stuck, like it's saying here, we get stuck in these traditions and these patterns that are from the words, but not from the Spirit. They're from the they come down to us through a certain tradition and a certain rule making, but the Spirit is this, because what the Spirit does is breaks open and blows apart all the things that we try to keep so tightly put together.
Right.
Finds a space and opens it up.
Right.
Yeah, let's see. I'll throw up another. This kind of got a little further in the book, but I'll throw up another. This is talking about the response after Peter's sermon. The response that those who hear this message, however, encounter a difference born of the body of Jesus. He is a difference in Israel that will yield an intensification and alteration of the faith received, but he must be chosen. He will not destroy faith in God, only fulfill it. but he must be chosen. He just goes on to talk about how this again comes out of Israel. But I thought this there's this continuity with the faith, but there is this. I like the way he says an intensification and an alteration. There's something that intensifies what's already there, and also tweaks kind of where the tradition was heading in a way.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking what he said, his comments about what shall we do, and I guess one of the things that we're hoping for after each worship service that folks attend, that they're asking that question: what shall we do? What is our response to this word that God has shared with us? How do we respond to that? How do we respond now? How do I respond when I go home? How do I respond on my job, in my career, in my family? What shall we do? We hope that's what folks are thinking when they leave worship on any Sunday or whatever folks attend worship.
Yeah, but you have to put it out there, and you have to deliberately say that. It's just like yesterday, even though I was talking about what God would do in handling the giants, since God would do that, we are to be. Remember, I kept saying to be what God wants us to be, and that sure I could carry it a little further and say that needs conversation with God. But you go back to years ago, 20 years ago, Rick Warren with the purpose-driven life. God gave us all a purpose, and we need to find that out, and we need to be ourselves.
Yeah,
that's what Miles Jones' favorite thing about being.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I think we need to do is, as we start teaching about pneumatology, is also teach about the elements of worship and teach about the response to worship. That every time there's worship, there should always be a response. And I think sometimes you can. I don't want to use the word manipulate, but with the way you design worship, you can design it so that intentionality sort of kind of comes out. But I think we need to go back maybe to teach folks that to emphasize the fact that there's always a response to worship.
I think the difficult thing is here, right? They are the response that they get, or what Peter asks them to do is to be baptized and called into this community, right?
Yeah.
To be a part of this community.
Yeah.
And in some ways, the church has become a 1 day a week, or maybe a 2 day a week institution. That's the fundamental understanding of it in most people's minds. That's not. It's hard to be called into that. A lot of what we tell people to do or insinuate people should do, we kind of say, we'll go out there and try your best, and come back next week and hear some more. And of course, I mean, in a way, that's what that's the institution that's formed up around what church was, but I think that to really get deeper, you have to become that community somehow,
One of the things I like about, I guess, the concept of process theology is that I think one of the things of process theology is that there's always change, there's always evolution, that we are always in the process of becoming. Even in community, as individuals and as community, we are always in the process of evolving. And that's one of the things I hope that we want to see happen in worship, is the idea that we are still becoming, we are still growing, we are still evolving.
And the thing I like about process, though, is, God gives us a choice, and He wants us to go one way. But if we go another way, God still gives us a way to turn back. In other words, you got A and B, and God wants you to do A and you do B, and He comes up with B, A, and B, B, and God just keeps on working. But when you talk about community, though, we have to empower people. And for so long, we have not empowered people. And because people really want to do. And it was amazing in my first pastorate when I started letting people do things, how excited they were about it. But because they were told so long that they could not do, now that we're in a situation where you can do, you've been empowered, a lot of people, that stuff in the back of their mind about what they can't do, it takes over. It takes over. Like you say, we got all these buildings, all this space, all this land, and it sits empty. Much too long. And people like to be there. And I always say, you can always tell how much people enjoy the service by how people hang around after the service. And I mean, yesterday, even with the storm coming, an hour and 15 minutes after service, or people still there because they want to be there. And but we have to give people something to do. And then, this thing about discipleship, I don't think we really understand that. And even with all of the studies, because I did one for like 24 weeks, but it's still, it doesn't tell us what we're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe because
and it's hard because again, it's set up so that we don't, because so much of it we have to each community has to discern together what discipleship looks like for them. Just like you're saying, each person has a purpose. That collection of people together has a unique purpose because of their context and their situation and who they come in contact with. And so in some ways it's hard to get curriculum and formulas to look at, because the thing that we need to do, we have to discern together. We have to find ways to be together enough to discern it, and to get it wrong and redo it, and to go down path A B B C or whatever till we get till we get it.
But we got to see that commonality, which which we see later on in Acts, where the community, we're not gonna get people. Well, who knows? We might get people to say, well, we're gonna have everything in common, but it like most of the neighborhoods we live in, everybody has a washer, everybody has a dryer. Is that really a necessity? If you could find the space, for that, and everybody has a lawnmower that they ride one day a week. It's just so much that community could do, and especially the churches that still serve the communities they're in. That's a real problem now, because that's not the case. I mean, and I'll admit, I'm a pastor where there are very few people who even live in the county who are part of the church. We just found a space that we felt we could use. But if you could have that real feeling of community where people really wanted to gather and be together, and because there are enough people in a community who are not in a relationship with Christ, when you bring that in, you could really, really make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes you think too about, just in some ways, and in some ways, the witness of the early church was not just was the words that they spoke, but also the fact that they were in that sharing things, and people were seeing who they were and what they were doing. And in some ways, when we're in places like you're saying, where we're in communities that don't necessarily, you know, our folks are not necessarily, that's not where their home is necessarily, you know, they don't all the way there, but to see a group that is living in common that way, is a witness, you know, is a testimony.
And, you know, they were also being persecuted, but they stayed together.
Yeah.
You know, we read that all through Acts. You know, we read it in First Thessalonians, what they're dealing with. And even in Galatians, the fight within the church, you know. So Gentiles get, you know, labeled and called out. So
right.
It's just amazing when something that starts like this, you know, where, you know, they speak to the Jews and the Gentiles, and then, you know, you bring the Gentiles in, and there's still all of this confusion. You know, historically, they don't talk about it much, but, you know, even the fight in Rome, you know, about who's going to be what and who's going to do what.
Well, before it gets too late, I want to get some of these parts from since we're heading this way anyway. This is taken up, you know, in this section called a new reality of giving. And he says, and they had all things in common. And he said the space of this common was where life stories, life projects, plans, and purposes were being intercepted by a new orientation. This common is created by the Spirit. How could the things they held dear not be drawn toward the common, this new gathering, this ecclesia, time, talent, and treasures, the trinity of possessions we know so well, would feel the pull of this holy vortex. I thought that was... And then it just, you know, this God does not need possessions and has never been impressed by their donation. The divine one wants people and draws us into that wanting. This is intensified giving, feverish giving that feels not only the urgent need, but the divine wanting. A new kind of giving is exposed at this moment, one that binds bodies together as the first reciprocal donation, where the follows will give themselves to one another. The possessions will follow. What was at stake here was not the giving up of all possessions, but the giving up of each one by one, as the Spirit gave direction and as the ministry of Jesus made demand. Yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I'll just I don't know if I'll read all this, but Luke gives us a sight of a holy wind blowing through structured and settled ways of living and possessing and pulling things apart. People caught up in the love of God not only begin to give thanks for their daily bread, but daily offer to God whatever they had that might speak that gracious love to others. What is far more dangerous than any plan of shared wealth or fair distribution of goods and services is a God who dares impose on us divine love. Yeah. I just thought that was the part that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Leonard's having some problems hearing. Can you hear us, Leonard? I think he's having some audio issues. You know, I'm going back and reading that book that y'all had discussed, you and Marcy, How to Have an Enemy. And I'm on that chapter now where she talks about mammon. And these words that Jennings says is very much reflective of what she says in that chapter about mammon. Very, very much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah. I was just going to say, you know, the other thing about full circle back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, and these words here as well come from, you know, you can find similar quotes from Deuteronomy as well in these, you know, that in Deuteronomy 15, it talks about give generously to them and do so without a grudging heart, then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and everything in your hand. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you, be open-handed toward your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land. And it goes on to say, basically, how if you follow the rules that God, where you give to whoever has need, that there will be no need. There will be no need among you. In
and
Deuteronomy 16.
And looking at this what we're looking at now, and thinking about the warnings that have been given about the catastrophe we face with the food crisis that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard the question asked, over so many times: will the world come together to deal with this catastrophe on food the way it has with Ukraine, with ways where the world supplying weapons and supporting Ukraine, where the world come together for those folks who are in Africa and other places that that the world thinks is not too sexy to deal with this food crisis. I saw on I was looking at CNBC the other day that we see skyrocketing commodity prices with rice and with wheat, but rice is going to be a problem next.
Says, yeah, Leonard says he can't hear.
Still can't hear. You might try. Want to go out and come back in again?
Yeah, I don't know if I answer him. I might have to go on Facebook and try to answer him because I don't know if I can answer him on this. Oh, he did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Well, I mean, the age-old problem, right, is that can you hear us now, Leonard? Doesn't sound like he can.
Yeah.
His speaker might have went kaput.
Let me just or I can try logging off another device. See if it's a device.
But yeah, what I was going to say, is that the weapons manufacturers, all those people can make money off these things, when it's a war effort, and then the ideologues can go for their get their point across, get their message across. We can rally our allies to our side and tie them down to our economy for their, even to their own sacrifice. And unfortunately, there's not the same political, economic, or hegemonic benefits to just feeding people. Because if it was profitable, we would have done it a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you think, the military budget. I mean, it's anybody who, it is interesting to think about anybody who holds this Acts text as a part of their canon that cannot be just outraged by the idea that we would spend just these trillions of dollars on a military budget while people starve. As crass as it is, and how as cliche as it is, it's just real. I mean,
Well, I mean, to that, and I'm not. Some folks are not Joe Biden fans, what have you, but I was a fan of the bill he's trying to push. Build Back Better. I thought it had a lot of good parts in it, especially the child care piece and the other piece, the other pieces it had. But, when it comes to spending money on people, that's a no-no. You don't spend money on people.
Right.
Can you hear us yet? Can you hear us?
I thought I heard us on his computer, but
yeah.
I still haven't.
Oh yes, shook his head.
Well, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Not,
Ask him, is he still to use Chrome? I know I always use Chrome when I use this thing. Any other browser doesn't work. Oh, I can't type.
Yeah, I can't. For some reason, I can't get to.
Yeah. I send him a ton using Chrome because the other browsers mess up when I.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh. He says he's on a Mac.
Oh, is he back?
He's on a Mac. Yeah.
Can you hear us, Leonard?
He went out again. He's gonna maybe try another device. Yeah. Well, and I think when we're talking about, we look at this text. I mean, these folks made a commitment to being in community. It talks about they gave themselves daily to the teaching of the apostles. I mean, and the sharing. I mean,
right.
Community is work. You got to work.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Well, and that's what Leonard was saying earlier. I mean, you read the rest of the New Testament. This wasn't all hunky dory, fun times. This was rough. And I think that's unfortunately that's where we we don't have those expectations. Yeah, we don't have those expectations.
That relation. Well, and I mean, any relationship, whether you're in a marriage or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, it's work. You got to work at this thing, I think we romanticize it. It's effort, it's work, it's commitment, it's risk.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that's what people think church is. I mean, that's the last. If you ask someone what they, what church means to them, the last thing they're going to say probably is, a community where we, where we, risk and put in the work to become, because I mean, the reality about this text itself, about the common that's happening is that, I mean, to me, what I see most is that we've all just found enough people close to our own socioeconomic, racial or whatever identifications, and formed a group together, and made a church that's not necessarily a community, and so most of us either are with people who don't need us to share anything because they've got everything they need, or we're with people that all of us are so desperate for things that then nobody has anything to give anybody, those the churches all find themselves in those places, I mean, that's the hard part, Anyway,
yeah. And I think what you said earlier, but people don't expect. I mean, I understand that for a lot of folks, when they come on Sunday mornings, wherever they come, I mean, the world is pressing on them. They're stressed, so they're looking for some, I guess, some relief, and I understand that. But at the same time, that this does require some giving, some commitment, and maybe we need to teach more on that piece.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, people are certainly willing to, to give in ways, I just think it's hard because, I mean, speaking from my own position, what I see a lot is that everybody imagines that the need is on the outside, and that's true. It is.
Yeah.
There is a lot of need on the outside. But in a way, then that means that you kind of, it's even enough. It's kind of a way that you say, well, there's going to be a separate time. There's a time for worship together. Then there's a time for reaching out to people on the outside, and we're not imagining that the place where we are is the place where the Spirit is drawing us together
Mhm.
and giving us a desire for one another and for,
Yeah.
People different and than us. And it especially it may not mean that this particular institution that you're used to in this place is going to, become the thing that you want it to be. It might,
Yeah.
something totally different might happen,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother story,
Yeah. Yeah.
as far as our expectations from
Yeah.
of where God is leading us as
Mm.
as churches, as those institutions.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess we're getting close to time anyway, and
Yeah.
Leonard doesn't seem to have made his way back.
Back,
But,
yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
yeah. It sounded to me like his speaker was a little bit like it was getting a little bit fuzzy anyway. So maybe it might have just
He
sorted
could,
out on
could be it could be his device. It could be his device is
Yeah.
having problems. Yeah.
so. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So let's see. Let's see what. See what the next little bit. Yeah, I mean, there was some of my favorite parts are coming up, and
Are we looking at? Are we going to chapter 3?
yeah, let's just do chapter 3. I don't have a lot underlined there, but
Okay.
maybe we can. I might look at that, and I might look at the look into some other stuff, and maybe Marcy might have a few things too, like
All
she
right.
does, and maybe we'll look at this. Leonard said he had an article out there we could look at too about
Okay.
this. Maybe we'll take a look at that because I do want to save chapter 4 for its own thing. Because this.
I wonder if there's any Juneteenth twist on in chapter 3.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
another. Yeah. They're probably. Yeah, we might be able to find. Might be able to bring something in there.
Yeah.
But that chapter 4, the criminal disciple emerges.
Yeah.
I remember when I preached on that. I was, another time I got myself in trouble. But anyway, yeah. So, but we'll we save that for next time, and I think that might lead us up to right before the 4th. I'm guessing that'll be 2 weeks. Does that sound right?
Wow, I almost forgot that we're that close to the 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just snuck up on us. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's coming right up. But
yeah.
so we'll have to decide what we decide about the 4th as well.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a Monday.
Yeah. Do you normally do stuff on the 4th?
Pass. Just lay low. Haven't done too much.
Yeah. Make sure that the fireworks are fireworks and not
fireworks.
gunshots.
Yeah. Sometimes will ride somewhere and watch some fireworks somewhere, but that's about it.
That's what.
If it's real hot, stay inside.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it can get hot.
It got hot.
Real hot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, all right. Well, until next week.
All right. Good stuff, man.
Yeah. Have a
All
good one. Yeah.
All right. Talk to you.